You're about to listen to a new episode of the Redefining CyberSecurity podcast with Sean Martin. Have you ever thought we're selling cybersecurity insincerely, buying it indiscriminately, and deploying it ineffectively? Well, perhaps we are. Let's look at how we can organize a successful information security program that integrates business culture with people, process, and technology to drive growth and protect business value.
Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com.
ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform providing enterprise-level cybersecurity to organizations globally. With ThreatLocker, you only allow only what you need and block everything else, including ransomware. Learn more at threatlocker.com.
And here we are. You're very welcome to a new episode of Redefining Cybersecurity here on ITSPmagazine. This is Sean Martin, your host, where if you listen to the show, you know I get to talk to cool people about cool things, all in support of building better programs for better security and privacy at the business to help generate and protect the revenue that the business is trying to create. So today, a slightly different topic. I used to do quite a few of these conversations where we look at how different backgrounds and different roles transition into cybersecurity and the value of different backgrounds and mindsets and experiences can actually help teams prepare better programs and actually achieve better results. And I'm thrilled to have Gina D'Addamio. D'Addamio. Yes, I did. Did I say it right? There we go.
Yeah, D'Addamio.
Yeah, perfect. I had the fortune of meeting Gina in Toronto at the Sector Conference, which is a Black Hat event in Toronto. And she told her story there of transitioning from the world of nursing, and I know there's a more specific description you'll provide that there for that, into cybersecurity. And I'm excited to capture this story and share it with everybody. It's a very moving and powerful story, and I think there's a lot of lessons and hopefully some things folks will take from this as they look at how they build and staff their teams to bring in more experience, more diversity, and open up the pipeline because we don't have enough folks in this space. As I'm sure you know, Gina, as well.
Yeah.
So maybe let's start with your role. Then I want to move into how the Sector session came to be. But describe who you're working for now. I got to meet some of your team there in Toronto as well. The Canadian Cyber Threat Exchange. So describe what CCTX does and your role within it to start, so people have that in their mind as we kind of walk through your journey here.
Okay, well, I'm currently a threat analyst at the CCTX, which stands for Canadian Cyber Threat Exchange. And we're a nonprofit threat intelligence sharing organization. Our memberships range from huge telcos and banks all the way to small mom and pop shops who, want to be up to date with cybersecurity. My role is basically understanding the threat landscape and how I can make it translated into an actionable piece of advice for our members, based on understanding that our members have huge cybersecurity teams and somebody that doesn't even have an IT team. So my job is a bit challenging, but it keeps me in the loop with what's happening in the cyber landscape.
I love it. And for those listening, of course, we have a global audience, but a good majority in the U.S. So the organization you work for is very similar to the ISACs, the information security.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's the A stand for? Yeah, analysis centers and sharing centers, organizations and centers, ISACs and ISOs. So very similar to that. I think in the U.S. they have very specific sector ones. I believe yours is cross sector.
Ours is, yes, cross sector.
Yeah. So that's the context. Let's go back to sector now. So there was I can't remember what that particular area was. It was a fantastic place to be.
Community lounge.
The community lounge. Everybody was there. Mm-hmm. Anybody was there.
What's nice about the community lounge is it's also geared towards people that don't actually have a pass. So students, and what's kind of nice is it reaches a large majority of people that don't just have a conference pass.
Yeah, and it was a real community vibe and feel in there as well.
Exactly.
And lots of people cruising around and making new friendships,
new connections. Exactly.
So how did you get involved with that? Because you had basically a little mini panel. I don't want to say mini. You had a panel there in that session where you kind of spoke to this. Was that something you suggested, or how did that come to?
Well, I was there as a success story of the Rogers Catalyst program. So the Rogers CyberSecurity Catalyst is a program that helped me get my certifications that launched my new career. And as one of their success stories, they asked me to sort of speak and highlight the results of what going through one of their programs looks like. So it was an opportunity for me as well to highlight who I was, where I've gone, come and have arrived to versus the program and CCTX. So it was an opportunity to showcase sort of success.
And for those who didn't hear it, I don't know why you didn't hear it, but I actually did a quick chat there on location with Rashmi Kashyap, yes, and Vasu Dagapati. So they were kind enough to give me an overview of the whole Rogers system, if you will.
It is a system.
Yeah, looking at, I can't even recall all the stuff, but basically multiple aspects of bringing in talent and making sure that they're successful. A lot of different programs there. So I'll link to that as well. People can check that out to learn more about that program, which I'm sure you'll probably touch on a little bit here as well. So give us a little background on what you did prior to cyber. Perhaps a very stressful position, and especially depending on when you were there. If, let's say maybe a pandemic was happening or not.
100%.
So talk to us about what that looked like, how you entered that field to start, what attracted you to it, kind of what you did in that role as well.
From the longest time, I've wanted to be a nurse. I have pictures of myself like decked out in nursing gear from probably age 4 or 5. So it was like nursing was my destiny. And going through school, I was lucky enough to know that I wanted to work with moms and babies. And I was able to get my final big placement, which is called your consolidation, in my 4th year at Mount Sinai Hospital to do postpartum nursing. And I knew I'd hit the jackpot. This is the specialty that I wanted to be in. So from 2005 until 2022, I worked delivering babies, helping little rugrats come into the world. And I loved my job. It was one of those, besides the stress and the pandemic and all the other things, that I loved my job. The problem is the system is deteriorating. The staff shortage or staff ratios to patients is deteriorating. So we were becoming more and more stressed, having more and more work with not enough hands. And in my job, I'm dealing with life and death literally every minute of the day. I never know what's going to walk through the door. So when you're constantly running like 4 nurses short a shift, eventually that emotional toll of somebody's life is in your hands, and if something bad happens and you don't have the hands to help, it's one of those, like, I couldn't live with myself if the system created a situation where somebody's life was no longer available because of the system and not my skills. And so it was really, I was like, I'm burned out from sort of carrying that weight that somebody's life could be at risk because of a system problem and not because of my skills. So sort of carrying that stress for a long time, it started to play a bit into my family life. And I have 2 small kids, and I was like, I need to decide, do I love my job enough to let it affect the rest of my family life? And so after some mental health challenges, I said, enough's enough. I need to leave. And I'd worked through the pandemic and the heightened stress of all of that on top of that, and the continued shortage of staff just made that decision clear for me. So I kind of left and did some mental health support, sort of refocusing on myself and my family. And I did some super menial jobs because I still had to pay bills. My husband left his job during the pandemic to look after our family because I worked full-time, he worked part-time. He was in ICU at Sunnybrook. And so I was like, do we pay the bills during COVID? What happens? We have 2 young kids. They were basically kindergarten and grade 1 at the time. So he actually quit his job of 15 years in the healthcare industry, reskilled himself in paralegal while he was off. So we've both in our whole family have had a big adjustment over the last couple of years, leaving that healthcare setting. His was a bit different also, but for our family life was our priority.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, thank you for sharing that. And I think I don't know, people take what they want from it. For me, what I take is that regardless of a profession, I would say, a lot of times one reaches a point where it's just not working anymore. Right. And it can be, I mean, you're looking after 2 lives in many cases in your situation. So super stressful. But a lot of people listening to this in cybersecurity might say, cybers could be pretty stressful too. Certainly if you're running a program that supports a hospital, right?
Yeah, that too, yes.
So that's why I make the point that regardless of what you're doing and what industry you work in and the role you have, I think there's an opportunity a lot of times for people to find themselves like you did, where that situation no longer worked for you in your personal life. So I say that because people will move in and out of different industries, including cybersecurity. So you chose to move from the medical field to cyber. Was that I'm interested in this space. I'm intrigued by it. I've dabbled in it, and it's the place that I think I want to go. Or were you drawn to it by something or someone? What's that?
I wish it was that interesting and emotionally attaching. It was opportunity. Like I said, I did some menial jobs. I worked at Costco. I cut grass. I needed to make some money, but I didn't want to have to think about a lot of learning and just like piece out a bit. But I didn't have a direction for a new career per se, and basically the opportunity of cybersecurity landed in my lap through the Rogers Catalyst program. So a fellow mom, school mom, said to me, have you ever thought about cybersecurity? I know you're looking for a new job, and there's this program, and at the time it was funded through the government in terms of getting new cyber talent and sort of, it's no out-of-pocket education. And I thought, okay, that's a nice opportunity. And so I attended an info session that they offered, and it was drilled in that this is a really intense program. It is requires a lot of dedication. It's an accelerated program, so you're learning a lot of information in a really short period of time. And it's not for everybody, but if you would like to apply, you do like a video interview. You have to do an abilities test, I guess it was. I had to answer a bunch of cybersecurity questions. And they had showcased that there was a CTF that the Catalyst would be putting on. And, if you thought about it being interesting, to give it a try. So I had signed up for the CTF not knowing what a CTF was.
Capture the flag, yeah.
Capture the flag. And so I was like, oh, okay. So like I understood the childhood version of that, but how does that play into the digital world? I didn't really have an idea. So I logged into the challenge and had to solve these puzzles, but not really having a lot of information. I Googled and I YouTubed, like I downloaded Wireshark. I'm like, what is Wireshark and what are packets? And I have to look for something in this packet. And anyway, it was a good couple of hours. I think it was like a full weekend's worth of attempting to solve puzzles. I was able to solve 50% with zero cybersecurity training. And I thought, wow, if I can do this just by Googling or YouTubing videos, it's like, if I could do that, with no knowledge, I have a good shot. So I put in my application and I was accepted. I think a bit of my background being a nurse piqued interest as well. And I think that in general has given me a leg up in the whole process, but it's also, I've put in the work as well. So I got into the program. I earned 3 SANS certifications in 7 months through the program. And the Rogers Catalyst program at the time was called Accelerated Cybersecurity Training Program. So we called it the ACTP. I was cohort 9 of the 10 cohorts that were funded. And it was an intense program. There were people that had full-time jobs doing the program, and the program was my full-time job. So when my kids were in school, I was in school as well, so that I could balance my family life with school. But that was 8 hours of my day or 6 hours of my day where I was focused on school, and I struggled to stay on track. Life happens sometimes. People get sick. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to get these certifications. Somebody's paying me to get these certifications, and I ended up getting above 90 on all 3 of my certifications. And the first one was a real eye-opener for me. I've always been technologically savvy. I was always, the first one to get trained on all the pumps in the hospital. I instituted the entire electronic record system. I was the nurse seconded to then train all the rest of the nurses on the unit. So technology was never far from me, but understanding like hardware, software, applications, networks, all that was literally over my head. I remember the first couple courses, the first course was a lot of virtual instruction. And I remember the instructor talking in English, but it actually didn't make any sense. It was literally Greek to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? But the program, there was a lot of support in the program. They're like, it's going to feel overwhelming. Just like keep trying to go on schedule and do the things and just keep going forward. And by the end of the first, I think it was like 8 weeks or so, when I wrote my final exam, it was really eye-opening to understand where I came from that first week of learning to understanding a whole system of stuff that I really was clueless about.
I love hearing a nurse talk about systems and applications and hardware and packets and, and networks. And super fun. Super fun. What, I don't know, you were going to say something else. Sorry, I interrupted.
No. It's like learning a new language, right? It has its own dictionary. And so I had a medical language, and so I often had to, dumb that language down to my patients so that they could understand what was going on. And cybersecurity, in sort of relational, is taking very technical knowledge and dumbing it down so that people can understand it. And having gone through that initial process myself, I think it's made it a bit easier as well to do that.
So the work you're doing now, you're looking for threats that target systems and sectors, and I don't know if you wanted to spend more time on that, maybe to describe it if you think it helps with people understanding what we're going through here. But I guess my point is it's different than being on a program, sitting in a SOC. But you're sitting in the big sock, the Canadian sock, I guess.
That's it. Yeah.
Maybe that's probably a better way to look at it. And in that sense, are there any parallels between looking at an emergency coming in with delivering a new child into this world, and doing that in a way of, and I'll just say it because I like risk. Do you, as a nurse, did you have to do what I'll say risk analysis to say, here's the situation, here's what the potential outcome could be unless we do da 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 da. Here are the options. We have to make the best decision for the time we have, with the people we have, with the systems we have. So, and does that carry over into some of the work you're doing now in terms of how you present the findings that you have and the guidance that you give to
Well,
the state
exactly. I mean, we have a Canadian focus. Like, a lot of what we do is we try to make sure that it's Canadian focused, because otherwise we get lost a little bit in the whole global context. But it wasn't without a lot of reflection that I was able to understand how my background in nursing could be used and related in cybersecurity. Like, having a baby is like having an incident, and sort of going through the stages of incident response, full assessment. You have to understand the whole situation, find out all the little pieces that connect to make that big picture, and which ones you need to adjust or contain to solve a problem, with the outcome being a delivery of a baby or the eradication of a threat actor in your environment. It was with a little bit of ChatGPT's help that I could streamline the side-by-side process, and just understanding sort of like, I expected to work in a SOC. That was because I was like, a SOC is labor and delivery or emergency room nursing. It's the same. You're in the thick of it. You're looking for the details. What are the tags that things are not normal, like in nursing, the same as baseline. What's the person's baseline heart rate versus the baseline normal network traffic and architecture and stuff. And understanding that I have an ability to see detail, like alterations in detail, and pick up patterns and those kinds of things. And when I, in an interview that I had, when I explained how, having a baby is like doing incident response, the lady just burst out laughing. She's like, in my entire year of interviewing people for jobs, nobody has ever said having an incident is the same as having a baby. I was like, well, your life is forever changed, isn't it? Doesn't matter which way you look at it. It's never the same again. And so I think having the background that I have and sort of relating the concepts and how they mirror each other has been very helpful for me. And I'm just very lucky that I didn't end up in a SOC, because I realized the SOC is what I left behind, and I didn't want to end up there. But I figured if this is the only way I'm going to get into the industry, then I would have to suck up, working 365, 24/7, day, night, evening shifts, very high stress. But the CCTX gave me an opportunity that I didn't have to do that. And I'm very grateful, because I've been able to enjoy my cybersecurity career, having leapt through that portion of fire that I didn't want to jump into.
So many questions. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like playbook. I'm sure there's a playbook for delivery and playbook for incident response. And guess what? You need to practice them, right? You don't just show up and hopefully you deliver a baby properly.
100%. It took me a long time. And the time that you delivered the first baby on your own is like no experience you'll ever forget. I remember telling the story at Sector, the baby like slid right out, and here I am. There was no doctor. It's just me. I was like, oh my God. So, I mean, I think in cybersecurity, it's the same. It's like when you find that nugget that's like something's bad. It's something bad. The adrenaline, the emotions, all of that stuff. as human beings, we thrive on that adrenaline. And people that work in SOCs and actually stay there for a long time, they thrive on that kind of that feeling, that dopamine hit and the rush of, I found it. I found some stuff. I'm kind of like, I'm over that now. I kind of don't want the adrenaline rush as much anymore. But
that experience and knowledge will help everyone in Canada
100%.
Actually do that and hopefully be a little less stressed themselves because they have your guidance, your findings and your guidance.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's the idea. So you said it's Greek to me earlier and it's a whole new language, but I want to touch on the value of communications because there's a team in delivery, right?
Yeah.
And what you say, how you say it, when you say it, what you're trying to get out of by saying it
Yeah.
is all important. So that's being succinct and very deliberate in what you say and what you want to get out of it. So how does that translate to what you do now? If it does, I'm assuming it does, but how's that come across?
It does, in a way, in terms of taking the information that I literally, scraping the web for what's new. We don't produce any besides we don't create threat intelligence. Like, I'm not sharing IOCs that I found in our thing. We do have a dark space where we monitor unused IPs from a couple of our members. So that in its ways, we're producing threat intelligence that way. But the rest of it is I'm looking what's being shared and then assimilating and translating and relating in simple terms with the help of technology to say, these are some of the major threats that are happening. These are the sectors that are being targeted more. Healthcare specifically, finance, the financial sector. And then for the small little mom and pop shop who doesn't even have an IT team, let alone what cybersecurity options they have, kind of, in a way, translating it into simple terms that they can understand. What is MFA? A lot of people don't even know what that is. It's like, it's a second identity verification, and teaching people how to use password managers and to have random passwords that are just already generated. You don't have to remember them, because those are the simple things that the average person can do to protect themselves from identity theft and malware, ransomware, all that kind of stuff. So in a way, my ability to translate complex, like medical terminology is basically, well, your baby's heart rate is showing me that the baby's stressed out. Simple. What it is. She doesn't need to know all of the analysis that I've done about it. She just needs to know that right. I'm telling you, based on what I see, that your baby's stressed and we need to do X, Y, and Z to move this process along. These are your options. This is why I would suggest this option over this option, using the knowledge that you have. The same with cybersecurity, why would we use this option versus this option? Well, there's pros and cons, vice versa, in the end, simplifying it as much as possible so that even one little adjustment can improve safety significantly in both environments.
I presume it's constant learning. So what are you doing to kind of keep up with what's going on? Are you doing more studying, more certifications, CCTX helping with some of that stuff? What's going on?
Well, actually, a lot of our members help educate other members. So a lot of mentorship and sharing amongst each other. So I get to attend a lot of webinars where I'm absorbing tons of information. One of our members a little while ago did a whole Wireshark webinar. I think it was 3 hours long, where we got to, he'd set up an environment, gave us things to see and look for. And So it's a lot of, can be hands-on learning besides, just listening to somebody talk about stuff. I haven't enrolled specifically in any more certifications. I mean, I've only been in this industry a year and a bit now. And I was like,
a lot already.
after 3 certifications in a very short period of time, I'm like, I'm just going to absorb what naturally comes my way instead of, hunkering down. But I'm always looking for opportunities to learn things, sort of going to sector. I was there to speak, but I also attended a couple of the talks there. I actually
Do you mind sharing which topics?
Oh, sure. Well, I saw Trend Micro's topic on their AI. The name escapes me. It's like AI that learns itself.
Okay.
Sort of like, It starts with an A. But anyway, so I attended that. And then with the elections coming up, the keynote speaker's election topic was kind of interesting. Yeah. And I've signed up to do the SANS holiday hack the last 2 years as a way to just do something fun, but learn something new in the process. As a cybersecurity professional, you have to keep learning, because every day you take a week's vacation and something new pops up or changes. And at least in my job, I'm also learning all the time. Like I read a lot. And dissect a lot of information. So just in that way, I'm keeping up to date with what's happening, the threat actors that are coming and changing and amalgamating and sharing things. And I said, we need to do that more between the blue team. Is we need to share more, sharing indicators of compromise. And so that's sort of what the mission is at the CCTX, is to bring people together so that we can strengthen each other's resilience based on information. But people are very scared to share when bad things happen. And we see that, the reporting to the SEC. People don't want to report it. So much stuff goes unreported, but nobody can learn from it unless you report it and share it. So the idea is to share so that we can all learn and better prepare in the cat and mouse game of bad versus good.
Yes, exactly. Well, as we wrap here, and of course, I give you whatever space you want to say anything else that we didn't touch on that you think is important for folks to hear. But you kind of gave a few examples already by leading by example for advice for folks who may want to make this transition or early in their transition of how to really find their place in their role and to stay relevant in that role. So you gave a number of examples already for that. Is there anything else you want to share for advice for folks who may not realize that this is a place that they could join and thrive? And I don't know, anything you want to say to those folks?
Well, like any specialty, the umbrella of the opportunities that fall under the specialty, like cybersecurity is such a huge, people think of cybersecurity as hackers and that kind of stuff, but the amount of opportunity that falls under the umbrella of cybersecurity is really endless. And depending on what background you have, there's a specialty or an area within the specialty for you. Honing that out and fine-tooth combing your way to which area is going to fit with your previous experience or your goals. Because again, like I said, I don't want to work in a SOC, but that might have been where I needed to go first to get into the industry. You have to see that the industry is large, and really any area is possible to enter into. You do need some certifications because that's what the industry sort of mandates to kind of get your foot in the door. And also how you present yourself. You have to be able to showcase your ability to communicate. Saying almost all of us on the resume say, "Oh yeah, we can communicate. I can." You have to be able to show that to somebody and have that face-to-face conversation, make those connections. As a nurse, I got to get people to divulge their deepest, darkest secrets like within the first 20 minutes. So it's like understanding how to make those physical connections with people is super important. So if you're wanting to make a career transition, you're going to have to do a lot of personal work versus just technical learning, because it's how you present yourself that really, I think, will help you make the transition easier. I mean, I still have people in my cohort that don't have cybersecurity roles, and they got the same certifications as me. And a lot of the time, you know, they're like, well, we're getting the interviews. But I was like, okay, so that tells us that what you've written on the paper is intriguing to somebody, but there's something not happening in the interview process that you're not making it to the next stage. So highlighting the abilities to straight talk, to communicate, to connect with people, and show them what it is that you know. You might not know everything. Cybersecurity is so huge, you can't know it all. But also then being not afraid to say, I don't know that, but that's a good question, and I'll look it up later.
But I didn't know this 2 weeks ago, and look at me now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, now look at me now. It's like 7 months. Look what I could learn in 7 months. And I said that in my interviews. I said, you know, my certifications, I don't know 100% everything of these certifications. It takes a lot of work and practice to really hone those skills. I said, but what I can show you with my certifications is that I can learn really technical information or things in a very short period of time and be tested on it and show you that I did well. So, you know, I might not know everything now. If I had to rewrite those exams, I probably wouldn't pass the same as if I'd done a full study again, if I just was given the exam, because I haven't used all of those skills in my role right now. But what's nice about cyber is if this role isn't working for me, there's another one that I've gained experience. And again, I have to assimilate what I've learned in this role and how I can apply it to another one. And the opportunities for growing in general in the industry are huge. With AI now, there's a big push to how to integrate AI with cyber and make the analysis part much less strenuous and tiresome for these poor people in the SOCs. You know, like get AI to help weed out all the noise that, you know, people have to spend usually hours and hours trying to figure out if it's real or not. So I feel, you know, for people that are coming in the industry, having a better understanding of AI and how it could be integrated in cyber is a great way to go. That right now is like way beyond me. I don't have a good understanding of AI in general, but again, that's a new language that somebody has to learn. And we can't all be experts in everything. So there's lots of opportunity in cybersecurity and AI, I think, moving forward. And if you see a lot of the talks at the conferences a lot of them are AI. They have a big AI focus. Even at the community lounge, like Sentinel One. Oh, look at I think it's called Purple something. Purple AI.
Yep.
You know, look at I went to see Purple AI because I thought that was super interesting. But that's the next step of cybersecurity. So, you know, as much as MFA and that kind of stuff is important, the analysis part in the background is where all the work is going to happen now in the next few years.
Yep. And you may not be able to pinpoint it right this moment, but I'm going to guess, or maybe you make a bet that you're going to have an experience in your healthcare career that will help you transition or leverage the learnings in AI just from the things you had to experience and work through in your role as a nurse. Yeah. Marco's not here to stop me, my co-founder. Marco, I always have one more question. He says, "You always have one more question." I'm gonna do one more question, and it's to employers, and I'm hoping that I get a chance to speak with Jennifer Quaid. She's the executive director at CCTX, and maybe she can shed more light on this. But there's a thought, I think, from employers, and you mentioned it. You have to have certifications and you have to be able to show that you've done certain things just to get in. And then you have to present yourself well on top of that. And then at the very end of that is, if not all of that lines up, the hiring organization has to take a bet or take a chance, I should say, take a chance. And I'm not I don't personally find comfort in that.
100%.
And so I don't know what your experience was. And like I said, I'm hoping when I get a chance to talk to Jennifer, she can shed more light on this.
Yeah.
Because I think you had the fortune of going through the Rogers thing, and CCTX was kind of there. I want to say waiting for you, but open for you to be presented.
Yeah.
And they, I don't want to say gave you the chance, but they that path existed. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about that as we wrap here. Speaking to employers who maybe not out of the gate or naturally would feel comfortable picking up some transition and has less years experience in cyber, but tons of experience in different roles.
Like I had said, it's a topic for a whole nother day. Is like, there's not a cybersecurity talent shortage. There's an opportunity shortage, because people that want to hire cybersecurity people want people with 5 to 6 years experience. It's like, well, those people don't exist. So we need to reframe how we hire talent to our organizations and go back to, I'm going to train you in this area, and I'd like you to be loyal to our company and not, stay for 1 or 2 years, be educated and move on. But it's the understanding from an employer's perspective that somebody from a different background, they have work experience, they have life communication, relationship experience, and all of those things, the soft skills, if you want to call them those can all be used and translated and, I don't want to say manipulated, but adjusted to a new situation. As an employer, you need to understand that that's where the value of this person comes, is with their experience and not just their technical skills. And there's a disconnect between HR and the person that actually needs to hire a person for that role. They know what kind of a person they need for their team. What was really nice about CCTX is, I was number 6 of our little organization, and I literally was interviewed by all other 5 members. So they're like, she's going to be a good fit for our team. That's what they were looking for, is, a person that's relatable to the team. There's only 5 of us. There was 5 of them at the time. And they're like, they want somebody that's going to work well with them, which is why I feel like I got the job based on sort of my personality and my ability to communicate with them versus my technical skills. Have I used Wireshark in my role? No, I haven't. I haven't had to hack a box. I mean, I've created a MISP, and I've done some other things which was new. Technical skills, like, creating a set of keys. I was like, I didn't know how to create a set of keys for logging into a server and those kinds of things. So I've used some of that sort of ability to learn new things in my role, but a lot of it comes from the soft skills part of it and the person that you are for that team. So employers need to, I think the person that's initially screening, as much as it's a big job, they kind of need to have more input into the people that are screened initially based on the piece of paper, which is a very flat, if you want to say flat, view of somebody. And again, there's only so much real estate on a resume. You can't put your whole piece of history of who you are in that piece of paper. And so I use my resume as I want to give them a little taste of who I am, and I want them wanting more, like that first taste of chocolate cake. And so I've been mentoring a couple of people that are transitioning into cyber. And I say, you don't want to like verbal diarrhea your whole life on the paper. No one's going to read it. Find a little tidbit that you might give them that's going to say, I want to know more about this, because that's how you're going to get the interview. And then after that, that's when you've got to showcase yourself and how you can, fit in this role. And employers need to take the jump to see that part of that, and not expect that they have 6 years experience and they're going to be able to run, because no one's going to be able to run regardless if they have 5 or 6 years experience, because every organization's setup, networking, architecture is all different. So somebody's going to have to learn anyways. So you might as well bring somebody on board that's going to be a good team member with the team that you already have, And those skills, they've shown you they got a bunch of certs. They show you they could learn fast.
Mhm.
They're going to have to learn anyway. So give that person versus the skills a chance.
I love it. Tease with the chocolate cake. Come in with the a la mode.
Exactly, a la mode. Here's a little spoonful. Get some wanting more.
Exactly. Well, it's fantastic chatting with you, Gina, and I'm so honored and pleased that we had a chance to meet in person in Toronto and that we were able to pull this conversation together. My best to you. Congratulations to you on your transition into this industry. I know we're better for it because you're in it, and I thank you for sharing this story with us. Hopefully, people get to think a little differently. And I mean, the last point you just made really sum it up nicely for me. For organizations, there are people like Gina who can do great things, and
you just need to be given a chance.
Give them a chance. And I mean, we're human. We're not a piece of paper. So
100%. It's my pleasure. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
It's fantastic. And thanks everybody for listening and watching. And I'll put a few links in for some of the things we touched on today. And please keep your mind open and stay tuned. Subscribe, share with your friends. And we'll see everybody on another episode of Redefining Cybersecurity here in the near future. Thanks again, Gina. Cheers, everybody.
Imperva is the cybersecurity leader whose mission is to protect data and all paths to it with a suite of integrated application and data security solutions. Learn more at imperva.com.
At Level Blue, we simplify securing your most valuable business assets by providing broad cybersecurity experience and award-winning services. Level Blue manages the risk. You reap the reward. Learn more at levelblue.com. ThreatLocker is a zero-trust endpoint protection platform providing enterprise-level cybersecurity to organizations globally. With ThreatLocker, you only allow what you need and block everything else, including ransomware. Learn more at threatlocker.com.